Good day to you all. My name is Donato and welcome back to my channel. Yes, that's right. We have another wonderful podcast coming up. The joys of 21st century, where podcasts used to be just audio, but now it's visual as well. So it's an audio-visual podcast. Is that called a vlogcast? And I've got a very special guest coming on here. Not only is he a great runner, but we're going to talk about something quite specific because he's done this as a challenge on his new YouTube channel. Yes, he's a new YouTuber, but he's been running quite a while. And he's a #1 best-selling Amazon. Have I got that the right way around? An Amazon #1 bestseller. Yes, he's done a running book called Running for Success. And yeah, he's probably more posh than Posh and Bix, and he also speaks Japanese. But in terms of posh, I mean, surely you can't be more posh than this guy.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
I mean, Austin Powers is well posh, but as I said, this man speaks multi-languages, and he does speak Japanese. So without further ado, let's get Ellis Warren on. Good day to you, Ellis. How are you?
Here we are. Good afternoon. How are we doing?
We're doing really good, really good. And I really didn't know how to introduce, because a lot of people who'll be watching this will go, who the hell is Ellis Warren? But before we get into the details and nitty gritties, because I did piqued my interest when I saw something, a 30-day running every day challenge. But before we go into that, whatever, can you just tell people how they can find you on the social meds? And I'll put a link to your book and so on and so forth. And also a link to your new YouTube channel. I think you had 30 subscribers when I looked. I think I was number 31.
Yes.
So
yeah, thank you very much.
How can people find you? I mean, I know you're on Instagram and stuff. What's your Instagram name? And
yes, so on Instagram, I'm at Running with Ellis, and as you say, I've just started a YouTube channel as well, Ellis Warren. I've got one video up at the moment about running for 30 days, but hoping to build it as well. So hoping to build running content, a bit of mindset content as well. And for anyone thinking they might like to write a book, I'll be making a bit of content to encourage and guide you through the process if you're interested. So if any of that appeals to you, do consider subscribing.
Absolutely. Well, as I say, I've already subscribed, Ellie. So I think I was number 31. Here you go, which sort of coincides with my birthday or whatever, but not quite my age. But yeah, Ellis, it's an absolute pleasure having you on, and thank you for taking the time to come out, because I know that
thank you.
Whilst with lockdown, wherever, it's still busy times. You are working away here, so but obviously we work from home, so it does have sort of benefits. And how you cope with? Because for me, for lockdown, one of my biggest challenges is my hair. I mean, my lockdown hair is an absolute nightmare. See, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So my lockdown hair is a complete nightmare. How are you coping? Have you tried the old cutting? I mean, I got bored one time and shaved my beard off, but obviously it's grown back. But how have you been coping with lockdown?
Well, I'll tell you what, with the hair situation, I was living in university dorms back in this time last year. So I got the missus to do my hair for me, and she did a brilliant job of it. But not having the barber has certainly had its effect. But my mum's also very good as well. So all of the women in my life are supporting me in so many ways in that regard. But with lockdown in general, there are good days, and then there's a lot of, mediocre days, shall we say. There's a lot. Yeah. It is a frustrating situation, and the way that I find myself getting through it is just by being as busy as possible with work, with a lot of creative work, as much as I can do. I'm someone who needs to be busy, and at the moment, having the routine, and as we'll talk about, having the running every day, that's really supporting me through all of this right now. Yeah.
Sounds brilliant. And as I said, the purpose of bringing it on was to talk through this running every day. But before we go into that, you are a #1 Amazon bestseller, and your book, Running for Success, which I'll leave a link in below in my description. It'll probably be, yes, hold the book up. It'll probably be an Amazon affiliate link, so people can help support the channel as well as getting your book. In summary, because we could do a whole podcast just about maybe one of the chapters in the book, because it is a great book. But in summary, what brought you, or should we do, because we like to think on the fly, how did you get into running in the first place?
So running in the first place,
into running?
So this is so in Running for Success, it is one story about how I got into running and all the things I learned along the way, and how other people can get into running and go all the way up to build it, running their first marathon. It's kind of like a guide as someone who's sort of been there, made all the mistakes, but also had all of the uplifting moments as well, and how you can get how you can enjoy it, but also prevent going through some of the nasty injuries that I had, which a couple of chapters are on. But with getting into running, basically, I was in university and I literally just started. I'd just done one term and I'd moved to London, big city, lots going on all the time. It's a stark contrast to here in Maidstone, where there's just fields everywhere. There's more sheep than humans.
So like New Zealand.
Yeah, so it was a big change.
That's for my Kiwi friends listening, by the way.
So it was a big change, and I was really struggling at university. I found economics so hard because I'd never done it before. I literally walked straight into an economics degree, and obviously Japanese as well. It was a real big shock, and I was really struggling with the workload, struggling with anxiety, and a lot going on here and there. It was just very overwhelming. So I wanted a means of getting comfortable with what made me uncomfortable. And I wanted to overcome certain weaknesses, like living alone in London, like getting used to university. And one of those that had been a long-term weakness, which was running. And the story that I always tell is that when I used to do Sunday league football, I was so unfit that one match, 5 minutes in, I got completely out of breath and I had to signal for the substitutions to my manager. And every other player on the pitch, teammates included, just looked at me and went, "What, already?" And it was incredibly embarrassing because I'd run out of breath after 5 minutes. And I remembered all these things and they stick with you because they're quite embarrassing experiences. And I thought, right, I want to overcome this. I want to actually work on this. I want to put in the hard work and see if I can actually get something out of it. And the way I did that was by saying to myself, right, I'm going to try and run a marathon because I like to be a bit extreme with things.
So you didn't want to start small. You didn't want to start like running for 45 minutes so you can do your for those listening, when Ellis mentions about Sunday Football League, it's here in Britain, that's soccer for our American friends. So, so you're not taking it in half bakes. You've gone straight, let's do a marathon.
Well, that's the thing. I sort of, at the time, I was thinking, right, I'll get this training plan and I'll work up it gradually. But the goal at the end is to run a marathon. I mean, personally, I find I discover more from myself and I find the most thrill in extremists. So I started with the aim of running a marathon in 5 months' time. So that's how I got into it. And that's for building it from there. Got the training plan, got myself out some AstroTurf shoes that I could run in and took it from there. Wow.
So basically, it's almost like a eureka moment, a sort of an epiphany where you felt you couldn't do that one little piece which you enjoy. Obviously, you enjoy your football, but the fact that you couldn't do that, you realize that you needed to do some fitness to enable you to do that. In fact, I remember back in the day where I'd be working with squash players, and the old phrase is, do you get fit to play squash, or do you play squash to get fit?
All right.
So it's the same thing as, do you play football to get fit, or do you get fit to play football? So obviously you were doing the getting fit to play football and getting into running. So that's a great story there. But the book, how did the book, why a book? Do you see yourself as a writer? I mean, it's your first book that you published. Why a book?
But it's the thing, I really love writing.
How did that book come about as well?
Yeah, so I really love writing. I always have. And when I was younger, from about the age of 11, I did like to write my own stories and things like that. And actually, it was when I was 17, going into 18, I wrote 2 novels, which are somewhere on the internet, but people are never going to find them, thank goodness. But I'd always have that love for writing. I always wanted to publish a book that I could call my own physical book. It was like a big dream to have. And around when we're in the first lockdown, so this is we're going into late May at this point, I'm just finishing all of my essays at university, finishing the final exams and everything, and it was a ridiculously productive period. It was like just sitting there hours on end typing away all of this rubbish about economics and that. And around that time I thought, right, once this is all done, I want to fill it with something. And I had this sudden urge to sort of document one of my one of my personal stories, which I felt could be of a benefit to other people that might be in the position I was in when I first started running.
Yeah.
And I thought I was really excited about the prospect of not just getting down my experiences, but turning it into a guide, which might be of a benefit to people. That really excited me. So from there on, it was just 2,000 words a day, because I had a ridiculous energy at that time. When you're really into your writing, the adrenaline just gets you typing away constantly. And it was a solid month and a couple of weeks on the end where I was getting that first draft done, because to be honest with you, with my previous writing projects, I've been so enthusiastic at the start, but they sort of, life gets in the way, you get stressed out, the perfectionism kicks in, and I've never managed to finish a manuscript up to that point. So, and well, sort of reflecting some of the lessons in the book as well, finishing tasks, doing them to the end, using willpower. I used the willpower to get the first manuscript done. So yeah, that's how it came about.
Wow. I mean, you talk about 2,000 words a day. I mean, as I mentioned, and for a separate discussion, for me, I've been writing for years, but never published. So I think, if anything, I think you've probably inspired me. I need to start publishing. I mean, I've interviewed many authors, writers, runners, non-runners, triathletes, people of all over the world, but it sounds like a great process. But when you mention like 2,000 words a day, for me, the typing, and you may relate to this, Ellis, is that I often find just pieces of paper and writing on them is more beneficial for me than actually typing. It's almost like when I'm typing, it's disassociating myself from what I'm saying, because I tend to speak quicker than I can type, and I always misspell and type, or maybe I should dictate. But it sounds like once you obviously had the eye of the tiger, you got the bullet bit between your teeth, and you just went for it and wrote it. And is it that simple a process that? And I know your YouTube channel, you're going to go through maybe more of these details as well. But was it that simple? You just literally downloaded everything from in your head into the manuscript?
Well, the thing is, I had so much I wanted to say, and I was so excited to say it. It was mainly take what I've done through this story, through this experience of training for my first marathon, and turn it into a set of lessons which I wanted to know, that I would have wanted to know when I started. So write the book that I would have wanted to read before I sort of went in straight into marathon training. And from there, you kind of get a basic structure, and you teach through storytelling, which is what I like to do. And from there, it kind of just took off. There was such an energy to get the story out, and I was so excited to get it down. So it was almost too simple. I'd say it was wonderful.
Well,
yeah,
it's almost as if some people tend to build the monster of something. It's really, and our minds can sometimes build something into something bigger than it actually is. And maybe, and this is why we're going to quickly segue into, running every day for 30 days. Ellis, did you like that segue? See, we haven't scripted this at all, but it's just starting to run once for some people watching this, listening to this, can sound a bit of a challenge. And it certainly was a challenge for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, just getting to the end of the road, hard work. But doing that every day for 30 days. I mean, do you want to talk us through? So what you've done, and that's your first video on your YouTube channel, is you document, and like you say, storyteller. So a bit like, I don't know whether you're too young to remember Jack and Ori, whether it still exists, I don't know. But when I was a kid on the BBC, there was this program for children called Jack and Ori, and where they'd be telling a story, because Jack and Ori tell a story. Right. There you go. And there's always rhyme in my madness, Ellis. So is the story of the 30 days of running. There's a lot of things that I wanted to cover, but just discuss. Well, one is what made you want to do that? Why run every day? Why did you feel like you needed to give that a go?
Yeah, so I was in a position where I'd stopped running because I stopped wanting to go running. I stopped enjoying it, and I stopped loving running purely for the sake of loving going out and just enjoying being out there and exercising. And what, as you may have seen in the video, I talk about goal hopping, where I was simply living from one big moment to the next. Essentially, running was no longer about a healthy lifestyle or discipline, but it was for the highlights that might look good on an Instagram reel. So last year, so last year, in total, I ran 7 marathons, and it was just going from one big marathon to the next and having something exciting, having one day in which there would be so much excitement and adrenaline going on.
Woo.
And you sort of get addicted to that. And so, but the training in between sort of petered out, and the sort of running, as I just said, the running for just having a healthy and sort of happier lifestyle, that no longer became part of it. And that really disappointed me, because I was not running for I didn't feel like I was running for the best reason. I was disappointed in myself about it. I thought, I want to love running again. I want to go outside willingly. Not just that, I want it to be part of my routine. I want running to be embedded in my routine. I want it to just be simple. Get out of bed, do a mile or 2 or however I feel like, and get on with my day. I want it to be simple again. And so what I did was, I thought, right, let's try and run every day, but let's not give us the pressure of having to hit a certain target or goal. Let's just go out and see if it becomes second nature, if it becomes part of the routine. Because they do say to build a habit, it can take anywhere from 18 to however so many days. It takes a certain amount of time. And I was wondering how my mindset would change through that, and obviously physical health as well. So it was to just feel like running was a really beneficial part of my routine again, like it always has been before.
So you mentioned that routine. I wanted to touch on that because I've heard many things, and I've interviewed international New York Times bestsellers who have books that debunks a lot of the myths and things. And one of them is that there's more beginning to surface now, and you touched on that in your video, which was really good. So you've obviously done your research where you talk about days of habit. When I was younger, we'd hear like 30 days or 21 days is a good way of forming a habit, which is being proven not to be correct. It's the start to get things. But you mentioned 66 days. I've heard 100 days, and that it takes about 100 days for it to be concrete and embellished in that. Is that what you found as well? I mean, are you still running? You've done your 30 days. Are you still continuing each day?
Yeah, so I'm still on it. I just did day 40 today, and I actually did a nice little mile. So yeah, we're getting to another milestone. And
life begins at 40.
Yeah, so I think I really want to continue it, because is it like an automatic thing? Maybe it is. I think I wake up and the first thing I want to do after playing a couple of rounds of solitaire is go out and do my run. And so I think I'm looking forward to seeing how that changes. I'm definitely going to keep it up. I want to, because I look at some people that have gone into the hundreds. I look at the running mank on Instagram, see him do an entire year. And then I see people like on YouTube, there's a really cool guy called Hella Good who ran every day for 3 years. Not sure if he's still doing it, but I thought that was mental. So I thought, can we go into the hundreds? Maybe the thousands. We even think about stopping. Let's just keep going on and on until we pop the clogs or whatever. So we'll see.
It's interesting. I didn't know. You see, this is where sometimes there's certain things where we don't delve into enough or find whatever. But you mentioned about the certain rules of the running every day. It's about completing, is it a minimum 1 mile?
Yes, so the general consensus when I was looking around is they say just do at least a mile, and that's the rule I kept.
And it doesn't matter what pace you do it at, it's just getting out and doing the mile. Is that
not
right?
at all. In fact, if you need to walk certain parts, then that's still 100% valid, because it's about doing the distance at the end of the day, getting the distance done, showing up for it. And just building that consistency.
Because so based on that, I did do I keyed in the date when I had a eureka moment where I decided to get rid of my because I used to be bordering obese a long time ago, but I started walking regularly. So I'd walk into work, and it was well over a mile each way or whatever, and then I'd walk this, walk that, eventually walking around Guernsey Channel Islands, which I gather is now an ultra event.
Oh, okay.
That was done long before there was ultras events there. So I've been doing. Are you ready for this?
Go on.
Because I keyed in the date. Because the joys of Google. How many days since the 1st of October? 3,456 days. So there you go. So I've been running every day, although technically walking most of them. 3,456, and
Blimey.
I'm all slim and whatever. So I don't know whether I'll publish that, but for me, it's like what you've just said, Ellis. For me, it became, well, my moment without getting too detailed. But remembering my family, triple heart bypass surgery and near-death experience. All that. I mean, I've had a few near-death experiences myself, but that wasn't enough, obviously, to jolt me into getting into good habits. But as you've quite rightly said, it's interesting. You said that after you've played on your mobile or something, you've got your brain working. What was that game again?
No, it's solitaire.
Solitaire. So you're getting into the good habits of getting the brain working, bit of fluid, and then doing your run. So you're getting and I presume this is all in the morning.
Yes, so straight away. So I get up, have a little bit of breakfast, and then do the daily challenge on solitaire, because you get a little crown with a few jewels on it. It's very satisfying. And then it's getting me running gear on and just sod off outside.
Yeah. Well, that's a brilliant habit to get into, and you mentioned there were some benefits as well, physically as well as mentally. Do you want to mention a bit of somewhere that, in your middle waist, a bit of
much
weight.
tighter here. It's very nice. Yeah, these were going up and down less when I was running on the later days. So
as it's my channel, is it tight tits? Were they?
The tits were very tight. Yeah, it's I think with the physical benefits is not only was I burning off a bit of excess gravy since Christmas. It was also I felt like my body was much more turned on alert, and to use a word that sums it up, focused. Not just to go out running, but also to get on with the day and make sure it's productive and make sure I try my best for it. And compared to day one compared to day 30 and beyond, day one I woke up and my body wasn't really in the mood for running, shall we say. Everything's all cracking. And when you go out for a run and your body's quite tired, and as soon as you make that first stride, something just feels like it's pulling. I had that. But now I go out and it's sort of straight away, I feel like I'm on it. And naturally that pace starts to increase. I'm not a particularly quick runner, but even I found that my pace was going up. And it's just so nice to get out of bed and feel ready for the day, rather than sort of lying in there and hoping that the sort of light from my phone would eventually photosynthesize me into a awakened state, So, yeah.
It does sound, everything that I see in your facial features as well, Ellis, I can see the transformation. And that's the beauty. And I think you're going to be brilliant on YouTube, because you can actually see people transform. And I've had often comments for people. I never say stuff, I just talk. And people will then leave comments, wow, you're looking very lean. It's not a coincidence that when you're following a particular journey for yourself, it was that 30 days, that people can see a visible change. And I can see a visible change in you, Ellis, in terms of your eyes, face. You certainly look very perky, very more alert. And not that you weren't alert 30 days ago or 40 days ago, but you are more alert now. And the science does prove absolutely 1000% that, and I'm glad that you said about those rules, because for some people who are thinking about running every day or going out every day or forming a daily habit, they tend to be put off, because we do see people. Again, we mentioned the Insta shots or whatever, and it's all for the fame and the glory and all the influencers and all that nonsense. But people forget that they think, oh, I've got to be doing 5K a day or 10 miles a day. And there's people out there running marathons every day, which I've now been told it is insane. And it's not good for your body either. But apart from that, obviously people do challenges, which is fine. I can appreciate the challenges, but in terms of the physical impact, but 1 mile a day is doable. I believe it's doable for anyone. Would you say, Ellis? Yeah.
I really think so. And even if you do want to walk a few bits of that, it's just doing the distance, and at the very least, it's getting outside, and that
Yeah,
always
yeah.
does us a world of good. Especially right now when we spend most time indoors, it really goes a long way. And I think consistency is the foundation to a lot of people's success, whether it's YouTube or any kind of career in general. Consistency is a very important thing, and rather than sort of, I think for me, rather than going for those big goals, that marathon at the end of the month or whatever, just doing a little bit each day, it's underrated how far that can take you. And I'm already starting to see the benefits of just doing a little bit each day, and it's something that I'm very excited to see where it takes me in the future.
Yeah. As the famous quote goes, it's the little things that make a big difference.
Yes.
So the 1 mile a day. So for people out there, I'd love to hear in the comments below from people anything that either Ellis or myself are saying. Are you going to be starting this, or have you already been doing it without realizing it? Which, as I say, I didn't realize I was already doing it, because you do see people say that there is one where there's a challenge. I think it starts November, and it was started by one of the best endurance runners in the world, but he was out running like 10 miles every day, and there would be people who wanted to do that, because I wanted to touch on injury prevention, because some people think that with the running is if you do overdo it. And I'm glad you touched on the pace, because the pace is not important. In fact, for one of your videos, you'll have to look up the Maffetone method, MAF. And that's all about running slowly, but I mean really slowly.
Right.
Yeah? So for the guys who are running marathons at around 2 hours, their slow pace is about 9-minute mile, which might sound as a bit of a shock, which is really, really slow. Yeah. So, but it's been proven again, the science, just in the same way as the science shows that if you're doing something each day, it's great for mental and so on and so forth, that the science has proven by running at a certain slow pace helps with your mitochondria, helps with the tendons, strength building, all that type of stuff. So to get fast, it's not about running fast, it's about running slow. But that's for a whole new thing. But injury prevention, you mentioned that it's not an issue walking in sections or walking the whole thing each day. And I think you mentioned the word, one of those holy grail, active recovery.
Oh yes, yeah.
Active recovery, which we see. I mean, because for me, it's my 3 R's are the most important for me, and that's rest, recover, recharge. That's more important than the actual training. But so part of that recovery can be a mile walk. Yeah.
100%. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Some people might just do a mile or 2 a day, just constant, or other people have already got that sort of running routine. If you, for example, run maybe 3 times a week, you have say you do 3 miles on one of your running days, then as the sort of active recovery, you just do that little mile run walk on your off days, and just keeping the streak going. Yeah,
absolutely. And when you mentioned about things clicking and creaking, I'm probably old enough to be your granddad, Ellis, but I thought it was just me. That to hear that people of all ages, the creak, it's normal for our bodies. We often used to pull our joint, click, click, click. That's okay, but as long as it doesn't hurt. I mean, what would you say for people if there's, we often hear about no pain, no glory, but what's your view on if you're feeling pain or if it's something hurting? What would your suggestion be with that, especially if you've got this goal of having to do something every day?
Well, this is something I'll talk about this a little bit in chapter 6 of the book, and it's what you got to realize is the pain from general fatigue of working yourself hard for a long amount of time, or is it a sharp pain which is coming from a very specific area? Because one of them's telling you to ease off the pace and just take it a bit easier, be a bit kinder to yourself. The other one's telling you you've got an injury here which is more acute and might turn into something worse if you keep pushing it like this. Knowing that difference, if it's sort of like a bit of inflamed ligament, things like that, then that's a sign that you really need to really take the load off, and a mile walk might be preferable in that kind of situation. When it comes to injury prevention, you got to remember, just because you're running every day doesn't mean you have to really go for it no matter what distance you do. In fact, I mean, today I sort of just had a nice, very gentle run just to a farm and come back. And if I feel something starting to ache a little bit, then what I'll usually do is walk for a bit, and then afterwards I'll do a yoga session or try and do a bit of foam rolling, because the yoga also works in tandem with this sort of challenge with running. And I think a lot of that has been just keeping it stretched and keeping it active a lot of the time, especially after those harder runs. Yeah.
I mean, you've touched on all those perfect touch points, Ellis, and you'd think that we're working from the same script here, but we're on the same map. You mentioned inflammation, and I know that inflammation is a sign that your body's recovering, which is a good thing. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's how people frame things like that. And also the active recovery, again, old school. Long before you were born, Ellis, is if you had an injury or something, it was rest, total rest. It's now been proven that depending on what it is, that is not the best thing. Certainly when I've had tendonitis and things, the best thing is not do anything at all, but to do, as you say, active stretches, active things, and a gentle walk. Like for myself now, after we finish this, I'll go for my lunchtime walk, because today was cycling day for me. So,
lovely.
You know, how do you run every day when you're on a turbo trainer? Well, you go for a walk at lunchtime. So for me, you know, because the shop is quite a distance away, so for me to go and do my shop and come back rather than get in the car is a mile there, a mile back. You know, that's 2 miles done, and the shopping, bingo. But you said all the correct things. My understanding is that are you working on a second book, Ellis?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
So it's a very, very busy period right now in the factory that is my writing room. But basically, I'm working on a second book, and this one's a very personal story, and it's one that I'm going to be taking a lot of time on to make sure I get it right. And that's very far down the line. There's also another project which I'm working on right now, which is a collection of short stories, which I'm going to release as like a sort of audio collection. And through this, it's just going to be short stories that cover certain themes about running. One of them that I wrote this week is about how when we go out running, we often pass other runners or other people, and we just give them a wave and say good morning. And that's just all our interaction is in each other's lives. But you think about it, they're living their entire lives with their entire hopes and dreams and aspirations, and there's so much going on that we just don't think about. And it's having that kind of realization of people around us. So sort of short stories like that, which I'm also working on right now.
Wow, that sounds really exciting, Ellis. But in terms of the next stages of your running, that's the creative side. Have you got any plans coming up with events? I know we're beginning to get out of lockdown. Are you a park runner? You're going to go on that first day when park runs are allowed? You're going to rush to your park?
I do want to try.
Or you're going to slowly ease into events?
That's the thing. So I would love to do a park run. They sound really exciting. So currently, right now, while we wait for events to come back, I'm just going to try and keep up the daily running. And at the start of the year, I said it's all about consistency. It's not about having a massive overarching goal. However, I did sign up for the October virtual London marathon, so you can't kick some habits. But yeah, we're going to be doing that one in October. That's going to be my marathon for this year. I try and do one marathon every year. That's all the fun, and that's what I'm going to be looking forward to. So training for that starts in June.
Excellent. Well, I've got a place for that, but then I've also got a place for Berlin, and I've got some other marathons. So I don't know whether I'll actually. Well, we'll see what unfolds. But it sounds like some great goals. But London Virtual, having done London Virtual last year, it's a great thing. Did you do London Virtual last year? Was that one of your 7?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I think that was my favourite event of the entire year, because there was what was amazing about it, even around the countryside, bumping into other people doing the same event, and the atmosphere on the streets. It was incredible. I loved it. I can't wait to do it again. Absolutely,
and it's one of my number one tips with what's been going on with lockdown and mental well-being, which I'm very much an advocate of. And we'll have to get you back, Ellis, and do another one of these, because we do like the bite-sized podcasts rather than the 2-hour epics, which are good as well. You know, I've seen some, and it can be good, but I think for me at my age and the amount of toilet stops and things going on, I think I can manage it just with this thing. But hey, you didn't need a auto biopsy about my body on that, Ellis. But yeah, I do recall. I mean, the day I'd done the London Virtual, it was an event as well. So I was at an event. It was a time trial event. So, you know, it wasn't with, whilst there was other people there, we were all spread out. But I did see so many people with videos, pictures where, like you say, it was almost like, because I think that day was the world record of the most people on the same day doing a virtual event. So have you applied for your world record certificate? Have you got that?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I might do. Yeah, it's on my mind because it's extraordinary, isn't it? That we're all counted as part of that. So yeah, I might look into it.
I mean, I haven't got my certificate to hand because I've been in the process of moving location, but I haven't even opened it. I know it's in there. You know, it said Guinness GWR, but what I have to say, Ellis, is it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. It's clearly you have great enthusiasm and vigor, and your writing is brilliant, and I know that everybody will be looking forward to your short stories and other projects. And as I said, if you look in the link below, you'll find Ellis's YouTube channel, which I'm sure you'd all love to subscribe to. Follow him on the Instagrams. But is there one sort of closing statement you'd like to give, as you're a wonderful writer, or whatever, or a quote from one of your chapters? What would be your closing statement for people who are thinking of running every day and or taking up running? What would be your key words of wisdom?
Well,
words
for
of
people...
wisdom from Warren's wisdom, we could call it.
So
I'll trademark that. You know, Warren's wisdoms.
You set me up quite nicely there, actually, because for people thinking of starting running, for people thinking of doing the 30 days challenge, I will read you the final line of my book, which is, it's not going to be easy, but it will definitely be worth it. It's one of my favorite.
Wow. So it's not going to be easy, but it will definitely be worth it. All I can say, it's been definitely worth speaking with you, Ellis, on our first podcast here together. I'm sure we'll get you back on for another one, and we'll talk more about your other projects. But for now,
that'd be brilliant.
It's been absolutely brilliant. And in the words of Austin Powers,
yeah, baby, yeah.
Yes, it's been, yeah, baby, yeah. So thank you so much, Ellis, and I wish you all the very best with your future writing, running, and everything. And no doubt we'll soon meet up face to face once we're all allowed.
100%, yes. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, looking forward to speaking again soon in the future.
Absolute blast. Take care, mate. Take care.
Thank you.